morning, everybody. It is time for the morning brew, and as you can see, there is no waiting room, so no musical interlude, no nothing, because my computer is being a total prick this morning. Complete and total prick this morning. It doesn't want to think as much as I want it to, so, there you have it. So who am I saying good morning to in the chat this morning? I've got Wolf Girl, Mariel, I've got Rhetorical Entertainment, and I've got the Mad Panda, who seems to think I need to start on Australian time, which isn't going to work. Oh, hey, Jason. I see you popped into the live chat. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend. Let me see. Those of us who follow No BS on Twitter saw his completely and total spurg out. Good morning, Ericor. I've got a Jimmy Hats this morning. Oh, he's new in the chat. Good morning, Jimmy. I'm doing, could be better, but could be worse. Hey, Mitch. Morning. Yep, here we go. So I saw, let me see, No BS try and pick on Shoe on Head on Twitter about, her video quality and stuff, which she does totally on purpose. No, I said, give it a second. Hey, Trina May. Okay, I guess you didn't hear me the first time. There we go. Over the weekend, I participated in a fundraiser for our very own Trina May girl that is in the live chat this morning. We raised a pretty good amount of money. Good morning, Jay Willie. Morning, Gerbil. We raised, we were really happy about how much money we did. We were able to raise to, no problem, Trina May, your family. We help out friends and family. Just, stay safe. Good morning, Sir Wolfie. So let me see what else happened over the weekend. There were quite a few live streams. Saturday morning, Rhetorical Entertainment had a rather good discussion about alternative. No, I'm not wearing just an apron. It's a yoga top this morning because it's hot in my room even with the air conditioning on. Let's see, Rhetorical Entertainment Saturday morning had a live stream about YouTube alternatives and marketing online and stuff that was really, really good as well. I believe he is in the chat, so the next time he pops up, all you guys got to do is click on the 3 little dots and go over there and subscribe to him because he is a new content creator. No, I am not. This is not naked news. Good morning, Callie. Let me see. Speaking of the news, our quick news this morning. This is stuff that happened over the weekend, trying to get caught up. U.S. has until September 1st. I forgot to put the 1st up there, but, the 1st in September. Hold on just one moment, please. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I know, screenception always happens when you try and screen share stuff. I believe I'm still screen sharing? Yes. U.S. has until September 1st to respond to Russia's expulsion of diplomats. After the new sanctions passed against Russia, North Korea, and Iran, Tillerson sat down with a top Russian diplomat in the Philippines. The purpose was for Tillerson to ask clarifying questions to better understand the retaliation that was announced. Trump has had trouble trying to figure out how the move will affect the tenuous relationship between Russia and the U.S. Putin has told the U.S. needs to reduce the number of diplomats, which includes both the embassy and consulate, to 755. This caused confusion as Washington thought they had far fewer than 755 people on staff. I said good morning to you, Sir Wolfie. Jeez. Good morning, Panda Burritos. Let me see. It's caused confusion. Yeah, they don't know how many people they have on staff. I mean, gee whiz, Congress, when passing the sanctions, included a clause which makes it impossible for Trump to lift or lessen. Oh, I better respell that because I'm figuring myself at this point. Let me see. Or lesson. The sanctions placed on Russia. There is a Ukrainian envoy which plans to visit the Russian capital that was the latest in the motions trying to resolve the Ukraine conflict. At last count, including tech workers, U.S. had 1,000 people in the embassy and consulate. The gray area here is they don't know how many people are U.S. and how many people were hired in Russia to work at the consulate as tech people or to work as the embassy as, tech people. So there we are. Let me see. Maduro vows maximum penalty for attack on Venezuela base. Early Sunday, anti-government fighters attacked a Venezuelan army base. Out of the small group of 20, 2 were killed in the attack, 1 was injured, 7 were captured, and 10 escaped. Maduro is calling for the maximum penalty for those who participated in the terrorist attack. Oh, all right, Wolfie. This attack came after the new assembly was installed last week. Maduro's new assembly has the power to supersede all forms of government. I'm going to let that rest in the air for a couple of seconds. Good morning, no name. No, I said Maduro. I know you're picking on me, but I pronounced it the way it was supposed to be pronounced. So, on Saturday, it voted to remove the chief prosecutor. The assembly was put in place to enforce justice upon the people who are fueling the unrest that has been brewing since April. So basically, the assembly that was installed last week can look at the other branches or other forms of government and go, oh, you're passing that? No, we don't want that passed. Completely making a dictatorship that answers only to Maduro, which is really, which is what they were trying to avoid but couldn't because of everything that happened with the voting and the surprise voting the weekend before this past weekend happened. So we've got all that problem going there. Oh, cool. I'm glad she likes listening to my streams. Okay, the next one. And this one might actually, here we are. Let me see, Dictator Ricky Martin. All right, North Korea vows harsh retaliation against UN sanctions. Like Kim Jong-un was going to go, oh, yes, you don't put a sanction on me. I said, okay, I thought now. No, that wasn't going to happen with him. North Korea vowed Monday to bolster its nuclear arsenal and launched thousands-fold revenge against the United States in response to tough UN sanctions imposed after its recent intercontinental ballistic missile launches. Like we were going to let that happen and not have a response, right? The warning came 2 days after the UN Secretary Council unanimously approved new sanctions to punish North Korea, including a ban on coal and other exports worth over $1 billion. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, called the U.S. drafted resolution the single largest economic sanctions package ever leveled against North Korea. Let me see. It said the UN sanctions will never force the country to negotiate over its nuclear program or to give up its push to strengthen its nuclear capability as long as U.S. hostility and nuclear threats persist. The North said it would take an action of justice, but didn't elaborate. Oh no, a North Korean battle rocket strike, whatever shall we do? I know, right, Mitch? It's a wild idea to think of the DPRK will be shaken and change its position due to this kind of sanctions formulated by hostile forces, said the statement carried by North official Korean Central News Agency. DPRK stands for the North's official name, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, because, they just can't say North Korea and it be official. They had to put all that stuff in front of it. North Korea test launched 2 ICBMs last month as part of its efforts to possess a long-range missile capable of striking anywhere in the mainland U.S. Both missiles were fired at high lofted angles, and analysts say the weapons could reach parts of the United States, including Alaska, Los Angeles, which would be no loss, and Chicago. It might actually improve Chicago if fired at a normal flattened trajectory. The centerpiece of the UN sanctions is a ban on North Korean exports of coal, iron, lead, and seafood products, and a ban on all countries importing those products, estimated to be worth over $1 billion a year in hard currency. The resolution also bans countries from giving any additional permits to North Korean laborers, another source of foreign currency for the North, and prohibits all new joint ventures with North Korean companies. So they're trying to cut them off financially in hopes that Kim Jong-un will finally say he'll stop firing off his rockets, which I doubt. North Korea versus Antifa. That would be interesting to see, Mitch, most definitely. Let's see. Coal has been North Korea's largest export, earning $1.2 billion last year, restricted by the Security Council in November to a maximum of $400 million. This year, Pyongyang estimated to have earned $251 million from iron and iron exports, $113 million from lead and lead ore exports, and $295 million from fish and seafood exports, the diplomat said. So doing all these sanctions is really going to cut them in the pocketbook. But to me, sanctions against a madman hardly ever work. Good morning, Aposmatic. Yes, better late than never. And it's always nice to be fashionably late. Callie, what if we put all of the world leaders into a pit and have them fight to the death? Winner take all. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Let's just hope none of the wrong ones win. The North will likely squeeze its ordinary citizens to help finance its nuclear and missile programs, as communist societies often do. Shin Byung-chul of the Seoul-based Korean National Diplomatic Academy said the North won't likely return to disarmament talks unless there are sanctions that require China to stop sending its annual, mostly free shipment of 500,000 tons of crude oil to North Korea in order UN member states to deport the existing tens of thousands of North Korean workers dispatched abroad. Good morning, Interlace, who chimes in with, it's all politics. Russia has its plans with North Korea set. It does seem that way. Mixed up in the mercury. Lead and seafood. There's still a difference? Yeah, you know. Yeah. All right, let's see here. And have to stop it every once in a while just in case because I did monetize the stream. Don't want to get in trouble. All right, here we go.
North Korea has denounced the UN Security Council's unanimous vote to impose new sanctions. Early today, its official news agency warned, quote, there is no bigger mistake than the United States believing that its land is safe across the ocean. Here's U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley. She spoke to CNN after the vote.
This resolution is the strongest resolution with sanction measures that we've seen in a generation. It will go after a third of North Korea's hard currency. It bans coal, it bans iron, it bans additional laborers that they can send overseas. It has quite huge implications to North Korea. We hope they take notice, and we'll see what happens.
All right, so that covers more or less what I just finished reading, plus a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and continue.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is meeting with other foreign leaders in Manila this week, where he will try to enlist China's help to contain North Korea. Robert Daly joins us in our studios right now. He's a China specialist at the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good to be here.
So President Trump tweeted last night that he is very happy and impressed with the UN vote on the North Korea sanctions. So, okay, he's pleased, but what signal do these sanctions actually send to North Korea?
The most important signal that it sends to North Korea is that the international community, all nations, including Russia and China, are united in applying greater pressure to the North Korean economy than has been applied, as Ambassador Haley said, in a generation.
Good morning, Neil. Yes, we love puns. We love puns. Jason Brazeal, I'm thinking the world outside of North Korea should take the North Korean citizens as defectors as soon as they step out of that country, much like what the U.S. did for Cuba. Yeah, I believe so, but I think they need to do it a little more tactfully than we did it. Good morning, Zeph. I bet if we offered North Korea a bag of food for every gun, they would take the offer. I doubt they're self-sustaining. Now, well, how many, and this is, a rather facetious yet loaded question, how many communist countries do we know actually survive with happy people?
What North Korea will make of that and whether that will tell Kim Jong-un that he needs to double down on weapons programs because the threat is grave, or whether he needs to cooperate, that we don't know.
China's foreign minister urged North Korea to try to maintain calm in spite of this UN vote. Is North Korea's reaction something that we need to be concerned about?
Absolutely. North Korea's the place that has the weapons. China, I think, has played a very positive role in that, as has the United States. And it's been interesting in Manila that China has allowed direct reporting on its conversations with the North Korean foreign minister, which it usually doesn't do. China usually says, we'll get back to you. They'll have their conversations on the side, and then they may or may not characterize them. But the fact that China is taking a public leadership role vis-a-vis North Korea, that's an important change.
That's actually a pivot. What can the U.S. do to try to force China's hand in this?
Let's see, a lot of Russians, Chinese, and other civs like North Koreans don't even know the reality of their country/government. Plenty of them are brainwashed, scared, and innocent. This is politics. Yeah, it is politics. I agree wholeheartedly. Can I have a blue name? Show up for a couple more, and the next time I rotate these out, I will give you a wrench, and you will have a blue name. Is that a deal, Pandas Burritos? Good morning, Mr. Jackson Scales, and how are you doing on this News Monday? Hopefully better than most Mondays, even though Mondays is probably the most dreaded day of the week. So let's go ahead and continue and listen to a little bit more. Yep, show up for at least a week and a half, and I will rotate the wrenches out. That's the way I do it. That way there's not so much blue. I reset all the wrenches at the beginning of the newscast, and as people pop in, I rotate the wrenches in and out. Priority for people who are in my Discord chat, because those are the people that get the wrenches first.
Well, we can't force China's hand. What we can do is be very vigilant about whether China actually enforces these sanctions. There's been a problem with past sanction regimes that China either wouldn't or couldn't enforce them fully. China has an 800-mile border with North Korea. There are a lot of companies, especially in northeastern China, that do business with North Korea in ways that China either cannot regulate or turns a blind eye to. So really this is a question, as Susan Thornton at the State Department has said, of our keeping pressure and keeping a watchful eye on China.
But China's given us pushback before. I mean, China's ambassador to the UN criticized the U.S. for installing a missile defense system in South Korea, right? Saying that that's counterproductive.
And he said that it was counterproductive. This is Ambassador Liu, because it upsets the regional balance of power. China wants to be seen as a responsible global leader. It's been very responsible on this one. And it doesn't want Kim Jong-un to have nuclear weapons. At the same time, it does not like the North American presence in Asia, and it sees the deployment of the American anti-ballistic missile system in South Korea as the United States sort of scoring points, strengthening its alliances in the region vis-a-vis China.
All right, for those of you that don't know, that he is talking about THAAD, which is the anti-ICBM missile system that we gave South Korea to put along that border just in case North Korea launches anything in South Korea's direction. That is a multi-billion-dollar system which is supposed to stop any sort of tactical missiles that are fired in that general direction. That is what they're referring to when they say that they don't like the missile system that South Korea has that we gave them, because let's face it, having THAAD there for China doesn't look good for China, and it doesn't look good for North Korea, because that says something. That's us saying, yes, we're here, we're backing up our ally South Korea. We don't want you, screwing up everything like you're doing at the moment.
China also has concerns with North Korea about humanitarian matters, and one thing we have to bear in mind is that North Korea is in the midst of its worst drought since 2001, and so one of the next shoes that could drop might be more starvation, severe hunger in North Korea this coming winter, which could change China's calculation.
The Trump administration has been insisting at this Manila meeting that the U.S. is engaged in Asia under President Trump. Do you think that it is? I mean, Trump rejected a massive trade pact with the region right after he took office. What does all of that tell us?
All right. We're about to figure out, what they're about to say. I have to pause this every once in a while because it's close to 6 minutes, and I'm trying to, stay under that wire so I don't get slammed for playing the NPR, even though I'm giving them credit for having their app up on my desktop. And for those of you that do not know what NPR stands for, that is National Public Radio. Here in the U.S., we have that. It is usually funded by people. It is local to certain areas. This one is local to my area here in Atlanta, Georgia. And they usually tend to be very concise when they report things, which is why I will probably start using the radio app a little more often than not. So here we go.
Well, you're right that rejecting TPP was widely interpreted in the region. The Trans-Pacific Partnership was widely interpreted as a sign that the United States was going to be pulling back to some degree, and that if that was true, then it's in the interest of regional nations to bandwagon with China, which is already their major trading partner, the largest investment region in the world. And so we've seen a movement toward China along those lines. This region is home to 60% of the world's population, 2/3 of global growth. If the United States does not have a very active trade, economic, investment program, it will not be taken seriously as a balance to China over the long term.
And I now want to get to Tillerson's future as Secretary of State. There have been reports that he's struggling to find his footing in this administration.
All right, we're getting ready to address Tillerson. So I hope you guys are finding this particular radio snippet interesting, because this is the first time I am listening to it, and I'm finding that there's a lot of information on there that I didn't find in the ad. Miss Ripper, never trust the government. They tend to make things worse and can't be bothered to know their own rules. It does seem that way, don't it?
That his relationship with President Trump is strained. What are you hearing?
Well, all of the same things that you're hearing, and there's also a concern about morale at the State Department, where there's been a threat for a 30% cut to budget, which Secretary Tillerson to date has not fought against. So there are a lot of concerns along these lines. He has denied that he has a poor relationship with the president. He's denied that he's planning to leave. And Secretary of State Tillerson has had a very good week. So let's see how he feels about it when he's got a little bit of wind in his sails.
He is director of the Kissinger Institute on China and the United States at the Woodrow Wilson Center. Thank you for dropping by this morning.
Now, Rhetorical says the NPR is owned by the federal government. The content might be in the public domain. I'm not certain, though. I wasn't taking any chances. It's better to be safe than sorry, and pause every once in a while. So there we have it. There's a situation between us, China, and North Korea. And we're going to be watching that during the coming days to see if the sanctions work and to see what comes out of it. Yeah, if they're owned. Yeah. But it's still always better to be safe than sorry. They probably know, they just don't care. With government, it is all too often do as I say, not as I do with the government. Yeah, that is true. Cosmetic, that is true. All right, next one this morning. NAFTA's broken promises. These farmers say they got the raw end of the deal. For those of you that don't know what NAFTA stands for, it's North American Free Trade Agreement, which was instituted under Bill Clinton. All right, here we go. You've heard that American agriculture loves trade, and it's easy to see why. Under NAFTA, American farmers have quadrupled their exports to China and Mexico, and the two nations rank second and third after China as markets for U.S. farm goods. But despite the largely pro-trade drumbeat in the AG sector, there are plenty of farmers who feel otherwise. From tomato growers in Florida to cattle ranchers in Montana, some farmers bruised by NAFTA think it's favored agribusiness over small-scale farms, lowered environmental standards, and made it harder to compete against cheaper imports. Right from the beginning in 1994, NAFTA opened up the market for Canadian ranchers and sent their cattle directly into the U.S., recalls Giles Stockton, a sheep and cattle rancher in central Montana. Canadian cattle were exported to be slaughtered and sold in the American market, increasing the competition for U.S. ranchers. When a cow in the U.S. tested positive for mad cow disease in 2003, Japan, China, South Korea, and Mexico closed their borders to American beef. But this galled Stockton because the animal originally came from Canada. As NAFTA import, Congress then tried to bolster the nation's small ranchers by passing the country of origin law, which required disclosing where meat came from. But this was forced to repeal it in 2015 after the World Trade Organization deemed it a trade barrier. They would, wouldn't they? The WTO would consider that a trade barrier. I want to know where my meat's coming from. Hi, Thraxy. How you doing this morning, Thrax? That's my guard dragon of the internet. Farmers may see more competition, but consumers get lower food prices. That everyone's better off argument, though, rang hollow among Rust Belt workers left behind in globalization and in rural areas, even as farm exports took off. Their discontent, fed by Donald Trump promises to rip up NAFTA, calling it the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, helped land him in the White House. Good morning, Fuckwad. How are you doing this morning? All right. For produce farmers in Florida, the stakes in a NAFTA renegotiation are even higher as winter-grown fruits and vegetables from Mexico stream north. Florida growers have, for example, cut the number of acres they have planted in tomatoes by 25% under NAFTA, even as Mexico has upped its production by 230%. Whether or not it is a primary culprit, NAFTA certainly hasn't altered the steady rise in farm concentration. U.S. agriculture exports to Mexico and Canada jumped from $8.9 billion in 1993 to over $38 billion today. Yet critics point out the largest farms control most of the slices, with 20% of farms operating 70% of U.S. farmland. The National Farmers Union, the second largest farmers organization, highlights this disparity. The net effect of trade agreements like NAFTA is to put more power, more authority with the large multinational companies and, by extension, take that power away from family farmers, says Farmers Union President Roger Johnson. Let's see. In Mexico, the poverty rate hovered at 53% as of 2014, the latest numbers available. According to the World Bank, around 2 million Mexican farmers have lost their land in the NAFTA era, and many recently took to the streets of Mexico to protest the trade agreement. I don't think protesting is going to do them much good, though. Mexico's traditional subsistence agriculture has shifted to large-scale produce operations in the north, while Mexican livestock production has industrialized as multinational companies like Tyson, Cargill, and Pilgrim's Pride have opened up operations. Meanwhile, nearly half of Mexico's food is imported from abroad, much of it from the United States. That includes corn, which is both a staple food and a religious symbol for the indigenous population. Yet today, most of Mexico's corn comes from the U.S. Midwest. The U.S. Midwest. In 2016 alone, the U.S. shipped $2.6 billion worth of the stuff to its southern neighbor, its largest export market, mostly for livestock feed. NAFTA and the WTO were designed to make it easier for people to set up big corporations and take these big corporations into neighboring states, says Barry Lynn, director of the Open Markets Program and a senior fellow at the New America Foundation. The agreements were signed to make it harder to fight monopolies. Just look at the meat industry, says Lynn. Today, only 4 companies in the U.S. control 85% of the beef industry, and the largest of them, JBS, is Brazilian. JBS, which is backed by the Brazilian State Bank, runs Pilgrim's Pride, a chicken company with operations in the U.S. and Mexico, as well as Swift Foods, a multinational beef and pork processor. Every time President Trump fires shots at NAFTA, he's ignoring the larger issue of consolidation in agriculture and trade, says Lynn. NAFTA is a euphemism for Mexican. It's a code word. But the actual problem? The big companies that are engaged in real predation. Such market power ultimately may be the real issue for farmers worried about trade agreements. That's why Stockton, the Montana sheep farmer, is skeptical about the renegotiation ahead. Is there the opportunity for citizen input in the negotiation process, he asks? Call me pessimistic, but I don't think that Trump is going to negotiate something that's going to be beneficial. It will be cosmetic. Yeah, it's all about the optics when you're a politician. It's all about the optics. Now, that came from this particular article. Hopefully you guys can see right here in the middle. This is what I want to highlight. Is a change in U.S.-Mexican agriculture trade from 1997 to 2016. I hope you guys are seeing this because I'm going to click each of these buttons. That way you can see the imbalance in between our exports and our imports from Mexico. I don't know, but yeah, Mexico is getting the better end of the deal. Unfortunately, most of that money is going toward the Mexican government. But there is a huge disparity there of almost 530, almost $530 million. So Mexico's getting the better deal there. Let's see corn. Yep. They are sending us $13.6 million in corn, but we're sending them $2.6 billion in corn. So there's the disparity there. This time it's on our side, which supposedly should mean that we're getting, a little more profit on that. But you saw the beef. So we'd have to run the numbers to see if that balances out or if Mexico is still on the better end of the deal. Now for the strawberries. That is a huge disparity again, almost a full $500 million worth of disparity. So I think if we were to run the numbers, Mexico would most definitely come out on top just using these charts and these numbers. And this is why a lot of people were against NAFTA to begin with, because as I read the article, there were a lot more people that were moving their businesses to Mexico because labor is cheap in Mexico. Not necessarily cheap here. So there's that. All right, let me see. Do we have another story? Yep. Our last story is a tech story. UK plans to strengthen online right to be forgotten. London AP. Britain plans to strengthen the online right to be forgotten with a law making social media companies delete personal information on request. The government on Monday published deals of a data protection bill, including a provision allowing people to ask for personal data held by companies to be erased. The changes also would make it easier for people to find out what data companies or organizations hold on them, and would ban firms from collecting personal information without explicit consent. The proposed law gives a regulator power to levy fines of up to £17 million, which is $22 million, on firms that would fail to comply. Yeah, I know, Apostmatic, but I figured you guys would want to hear about that. The bill is intended to replace European Union privacy protections when Britain leaves the bloc in 2019. It must be approved by Parliament to become law. Yeah, I heard you had a tooth pulled. I heard somebody had to schedule a dentist appointment because you were too busy trying to kill yourself with Tylenol. Wide. So those are the news for the morning. So let's get on with the shout outs. Since my computer's acting up, I'm just going to list them off. Outs this morning. The incomparable, the ever chuckle-inducing, and the funny-as-hell Drunken Uncle. The only thing that I can say about Drunken Uncle that might be negative is don't watch Drunken Uncle and Magog of Morscar back-to-back, because you won't be able to laugh. And don't add Big Dicko to that, because you'll start wheezing or probably fall out of your chair from getting lightheaded and fainting. He does response videos, so that is the bulk of his work, and he does it very well. From providing information to putting in a jab here and there, Drunken Uncle is absolutely perfect at that. It's Fuddernut, and when you know the day that I shouted him out, he's not in the live chat. He does live streams, he does shit posting, and he does response videos as well. So y'all go check out the nut. Kind Heathen is Drunken Uncle's partner in crime. When Kind Heathen gets rolling with his response videos, him and Drunken Uncle challenge each other to respond to the most ridiculous crap on the internet. So check out Kind Heathen as well. And I'm going to end with your lovable boy, Pat. He does shout-outs, he does commentary, he does all kinds of stuff on his channel. He also has a secondary channel that I'm probably going to wind up shouting out a little later on this week. But y'all go check out your boy, Pat. I don't think there's anybody that I know that knows Pat that hates Pat. All right, and those are the shout-outs. Already knows about this one, but here is the facepalm moment in media. You're reading that correctly from Fox News, Food and Drink. Good morning, thank you, Ogre. Man tax adds 18% to bill at Australian cafe. Yep, you're reading that right. A vegan cafe in Brunswick, Australia, charges its male customers an 18% surcharge to represent the gender pay gap, Broadsheet reports. The campaign at Handsome Her, which has been accused of being sexist by some in its reviews on Google, reportedly occurs 1 week each month. There's been nothing but positivity from everyone, males and females, the cafe's owner Alex O'Brien told Broadsheet. Handsome Her describes itself on Facebook as being focused on male empowerment, social responsibility, and environmental justice. I was waiting for you to say something, Traname. I was waiting for you to say something, Traname. Its house rules say the surcharge is donated to a women's service and that women also get priority seating at the business. We're not imposing the surcharge. It's voluntary, O'Brien said. Men are asked if they want to pay the surcharge before being charged. If someone doesn't want to pay the tax, we will just wipe it, she said. See, if I were to do something like this, if I had a business, if I were to do something like this in the United States, number one, once they realized that it wasn't a mandatory surcharge, I would give all the proceeds to a men's rights organization. Just to piss off the feminists, because that's the way I am. But, you know, there you go. And that concludes the stories for the day. So I'm going to come up here. Where are we? All right, that's all the put this over here so I can talk to you guys for a little bit before I end the show, provided this thing is going to, there we go. So, there we have it. And also at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Jason Brazeal's channel is Jason's Pub. It's a 1 or 2 hour live stream where he just kind of hangs out, chills, BS's, and he plays games every now and again during that. And he's doing that every Monday. And again, it starts at 7 Eastern Standard Time. So y'all go check out Jason later on tonight. If I didn't love animals so much, I'd have a burger to piss them all off. I mean, there are other ways of doing this because, you know, I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if there is a pay gap per se in Australia or that region of Australia. But to continue to perpetuate something that has been debunked over and over again gets pretty tiring. It gets pretty sick and sad. But, oh, that's Central Standard Time. So it'd be 8 Eastern, right? Because Central's an hour behind. It'd be 8 Eastern Standard Time. All right. Jason, since you have a wrench, would you like to shill your channel in my live chat, sir? You have permission to do so. Because you have that live stream later on today. Yes, we'll have the burgers for you, Traname. We don't mind having a little bit of beef here and there. This world is just, to me, as the saying goes, we're going to hell in a handbasket. The problem is we are in that express lane because we have 10 items or less. With all the stupidity in the world, sometimes it gets tired to fight all that stupid crap. Something of a coffee mail tax. I mean, we have enough taxes here in the United States. I mean, I would be absolutely happy if they got rid of the entire tax code and just went to an absolute flat tax, but that's just me. Let me go ahead and refill my cup. I would see if I could get, my news hound to get into the picture this morning. Boo boo, you want to come say hello? You want to come say hello to the people? No? You're comfortable? He's comfortable. So it ain't going to happen today. I'm going to try and get him in. Yes, I know it's powdered. We couldn't afford the other stuff. We're a bit tight on the budget today. All right. Let me get this in here. And so I don't clink. I gotta find my plastic spoon. I've got my coffee fixed. I think we should not all pay taxes except for the SJWs, a flat rate every time they say something stupid. I think that would fund a lot of people. Excuse me this morning. Apparently I wasn't quite done with all this. Yep. Okay. Let me pop this other thing up here. Because it is about that time. I'll put this over here so you can see my face. May your coffee ever flow, may your caffeine be ever strong, and may you have an absolutely marvelous Monday. See those of you that have the link in the Discord after the show. Have a good one.